What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this week's episode. I'm joined by Pittsburgh native. I got from Pittsburgh, I got Weston Homa. Weston, pleasure to have you on the show, dude.
I've been following you for a good bit now, and glad to be on. Good stuff.
Dude, I appreciate it has been a while. I know that we kind of interacted through messaging, liking each other's stuff and everything like that. So it's fun to, I see. That's the awesome thing, I guess you could kind of say about social media, is you get a chance to know individuals like from afar and kind of could, without knowing that you actually motivate someone, you do. You know what I'm saying? So that's a really cool aspect of social media, and people will have their own opinions on everything. I mean, shoot, man, there's times where I just wish I could just delete the sucker wholeheartedly, but at times it's what gets the message out there for Antler Up, and it's a great way of communicating with friends and that you don't see all the time, all that stuff. So man, I'm excited to have you on, and we're even going to get in a chance to hopefully get to talk about the trip that you made with a mutual friend of mine. We got Chris Weiss. So I'm interested to hear about your trip with Chris and what your takeaways were from that, and that monster of an individual that he is. So I'm anxious to hear about that. But yeah, man, like I guess right off the rip, you talk about, I obviously said from Pittsburgh, but man, give me and the listeners a little introduction of who you are and what's happening in your life, man.
Yeah. So my name's Weston Homa. I am from south of Pittsburgh. Just really love all things outdoors. I mean, hunting's number one. But I will say for me, my heart truly lies in these Western hunts that I've been able to do the last about 4 years.
Okay.
That's really been my thing. But not only that, I love to hunt whitetails around here too. I'll be always out, and I've dove down the public land rabbit hole. I grew up hunting pretty much private, but really been getting after the last few years on public, and just love that mobile hunting, public land chase. I also do a lot of backpacking in the summer, and then the last couple of years, I've really taken to running marathons and now ultra marathons. And that's pretty much what I like to do. And we can go down whatever rabbit hole you want to go down on it.
Dude, that's like part 1, part 2, part 3 of what I want to go down with you, man, just because there's aspects of my life that, like, again, I love to see the passion that you have for all of those facets of your interests. And just because, hell, man, even like the running stuff, I'm a health and phys ed teacher. I used to have my personal training certification years ago before I got into teaching, just because it was another job. It was a passion of mine. Then I got into coaching and just let the certification kind of fall to the wayside. I went up in ebbs and flows of my interests. And I still, to this day, I teach a senior personal training class. We have a really cool program where I teach at, where there's 3 teachers, myself included. Another one where she has the students all year round. She covers like the main content of the ACSM book and certification. And then they go to another colleague of mine. He covers all the nutrition side of things. And then they come to me. I'm like the fitness lab individual, where I teach them working with other individuals, spotting and the actual form and things along those lines for exercise. So that's a really cool thing. So that's why I'm anxious, because, dude, ever since I could remember, I effing hated running. And to this day, there's times where I love, like when my daughter was recently born, I was like, man, I said to my wife, I just need to go for a run. And I went for a run, and usually I take my dog with me because he makes my mile time go a lot faster because he's pulling me. Right. But so I went by myself just because, again, he is pulling me. I just wanted to go enjoy it. So I went by myself, and it was, honestly, man, it was like, people are gonna be like, wow, you did 2.5 miles. But the 2.5 miles that I did was so refreshing mentally for me. And just, I went at my own pace. I just went around, like did a nice loop. And again, this was like in January, so it wasn't so warm out, I guess you could say. But dude, so there are things I want to ask you about the running thing. So another rabbit hole that we go down, dude. So yeah, I'm pumped for this conversation to see where we're going to go into, because there's many facets that I have questions about. But so here's one that I want to ask you though about, because I see on your stories, you'll sometimes you're like, hey, got to the grocery store. I see what's in your grocery cart. You got some good food. You got fruits. You got vegetables. You got your protein. All that stuff. So my biggest issue is always like I've always had a sweet tooth like no other. I'm talking I have no self-control if I see a really good homemade chocolate chip cookie. Like I'm gonna house those suckers, that type of stuff. So something happened to me recently that I've discovered that I love. So I want to ask you, what kind of sweet tooth do you have? How are you staying on track, being jacked and lean and a lean mean machine, dude?
So that is my one thing. I'm with you there. I do have a sweet tooth too. I think that's why I love fruit so much, because I'm just doing what I can for that sweet tooth. But I mean, listen, man, like nobody's perfect with everything. No, like diet is like perfect. It's
Mhm.
just trying to be the best with it you can.
Yep.
I think what's my favorite sweet tooth? It might be like a cookie, cookies or a baked good or something like that. But I found for me, it's like when I just like put those things off,
Mhm.
even like a sweet or like, and honestly, drinking like out, like I'm not against it, but it's not really something I'm
Right? Me
into
too.
anymore. Yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 times a year. That's something else too. I just save them.
Yep.
Like my brother got married last year. Absolutely, like letting it rip. Deer camp, first weekend of buck, yeah. But I just anymore, I just try to save those things. But
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So here's the thing that I've learned, and because uh, being 36, I'm almost 37. I would say about 10 years ago, I used to work. Obviously, I was like I just mentioned, I was a personal trainer, but I liked to be accountable myself. And I found that times like working with another individual held me accountable at that time in my life, right? Like I was 26. And at that point in time, man, I, I really, I was when I look back at those photos and everything, I was in the best shape of my life at the those point in times. I do have I'll admit, and I even admit it to my health students because we're getting up to that time frame right now where we talk about mental disorders and things like that. Like I do have some form of like body dysmorphia. Like I see myself as something I see myself as a big fat ass. I really do. And I struggle with that. I always have. And so with that, going down this rabbit hole with you, Weston. So my wife bought me a creamy machine, one of those Ninja creamy machines. I don't know if you've seen all
I've
these things on
I've
Instagram.
recently seen these. Yeah.
Yep. So what I've been doing is taking my protein shake.
Okay.
If let's like for instance today, I worked out as soon as we got home from work. I cut the grass and I had to pick up my daughter from dance. And when I got home, I had some chicken, some grilled chicken that I made yesterday, and I had some rice, just a little bit, and some vegetables. And I was like, man, for dessert, I'm going to have what I made yesterday, which was a protein shake, and I froze it. And so basically, just literally, I take almond milk, my protein shake, I mix it up. I put a like the sugar-free, calorie-free, basically vanilla cheesecake Jello pudding, instant pudding
Yep.
mix, and it's just like a little tablespoon of that. And there's really no. Basically, that's what molds what makes the creamy more like ice cream rather than just a hot mess in there. So I do that, blend it all up, dude, and next thing you know it, and you do like the two spins, add a little bit more almond milk. It is literally like soft ice cream, but the macros in it are what it's just like drinking a normal protein shake. So
Right. Yeah.
but it gives me that, "Oh my gosh, I'm having ice cream basically right now, and I
Yeah.
feel like I'm cheating, but in reality, I'm not." So, yeah, man, that's been my thing. So, if anybody listening that is trying to better themselves, summer's right around the corner, and for you, Weston, I'm sure you're getting already training for your summer trips, training for your Western hunts already, because man, that's only in a couple months. When you think about what you're putting in your body and stuff like that, and again, if you have that sweet tooth, this sucker is a really cool little helper to help break that up.
Yeah. I've heard. I don't have one, but I've heard some good things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I said they're worth their money in gold for sure.
Yeah.
So, but no, man. So here's what we'll start out with. I guess going off of the Western stuff, like you said, about 40 years ago, and I like the one post you made a while ago talking about how, in the beginning you felt, you didn't know what you were doing, I guess you could kind of say, and I'm paraphrasing, but the more you do something, the better you get, right? And that's in every aspect about it. So what drew you to obviously being from Pittsburgh area, just south of it, what drew you to that Western hunt hunt life, basically.
Yeah, this is I think this is good. So when I grew up, typical hunting family. We go up for first day deer season. I was fortunate enough. My dad does have a few acres, enough to like bow hunt, get out there and hunt this field edge. Definitely introduced us to the sport,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it. But there was something about it growing up to where I didn't feel like I was in any sort of control. And I have an older brother who is one of the best killers I've ever met. Like he's the guy that first day of deer season, he was you get a radio 7:30 a.m. He's tagged out, and honestly, I felt like what was it like? Why? Like I'm in this tree stand, I have no control. Like I don't understand. I don't understand this game. Um, but no, he puts the work in. I'm not taking it from that. But when the idea of hunting out west and hunting to where you're not in the same ladder stand on a field edge got brought, like that idea came up to me, and I loved watching Meat Eater growing up. Steve Ranella, how passionate he is about his hunts, and then he was always hunting like out west or maybe up in Alaska or something. And I was always infatuated with those adventures and the landscape and everything. But really, when you're hunting out west, like you can move, like you can try to make it happen. And I think just trying to like being also an athletic guy, like I played all the sports growing up. Like I was like, man, that just really seems like something that could be up my alley. And my dad had gone a couple years prior to me ever going with some buddies, and they did not have much luck. But I can't really remember the first conversation, but I think this was about 4 years ago. And next thing I knew, we had tags to go hunt elk in Colorado, and it was just me and my dad. I was jacked for it, and this is kind of where the running started a little bit. I can get into that in a little bit, but the first year we went out there, we're hunting elk, and I was just taken back. We had backpacked in Wyoming before that, and I just something about the mountains out there just really. I felt more at home there in the pines and the rocks, and I still do, truthfully, than even just like up on an oak flat in PA. I mean, I still love that, but like there's something out there that's just spiritual for me.
Yeah.
So we're out there to hunt elk, and the second day is really, I just had this moment that I replay all in my mind all the time. And I was on Backcountry PA podcast last year, and I told this story. Second day, climbing down this big rock chute, and I'm smelling these elk. I mean, you can smell whitetail, but I mean, elk lay so much sign. When you're on them and you're downwind, you can really smell them. And I've never seen an elk in real life to this point. And I don't know, I see this group of cows in the stick timber, and I just hear this bugle probably 60 yards from me, but it's in all the thick pine around this rock. And I just remember from there just being like, this is the most unbelievable thing. I want to do this every year, forever, and I'm trying to set myself up to do that. No. But, well, long story short, he bugled. All these cows got, like, spooked up. They saw me, and then he actually bugled again. I had my gun up, and I was ready, but I never had a shot or whatever. And that moment was just like, I feel like I made something happen, too. Like, I really felt present in the moment. I was, like, stalking in a couple hundred yards through this timber and got an elk to bugle. And I was cow calling. He'd come, and he'd hammer right back because I was trying to slow up all the cows and everybody. And I was just hooked immediately. And I had prepped for that trip, and I knew, like, I'd probably find, like, a niche here. But since then, man, it's just been, I love hunting. I was even talking to Chris Weiss about this. Like, I do love hunting whitetails. Like, we're out scouting. I'm going to put in all the time for this. But, dude, that thing that I know Chris has for whitetails, that it's a random Tuesday night in February, and you're cooking dinner, and you just have to, like, it's just driving you nuts. That's me for hunting elk and mule deer and just being in the mountains out west. So that's cool. How it got started since then. And truthfully, so yeah, that was the first year hunting elk. We hunted first. Colorado's 4 rifle seasons. That was the first rifle season we went. And then the second year we hunted the second rifle season, and we didn't kill. I mean, I had opportunities on bulls. I kicked another good bull up. I had another bull at 600 yards. I didn't put him in the scope, and I couldn't close the distance. Bunch of just bunch of those kind of stories, but like on him, but never. We weren't. I wasn't punching attack, and to this point, I loved it. Like I loved it so much. I was, but there is something to it until you find that success, to where that's when you really feel like you're starting, like you're doing it.
Yeah.
And luckily, last year I did kill a 4x4 mule deer, and I was probably the happiest the happiest person in the mountains at that moment.
Right.
And that's how it all started. And gosh, even since that first year, I got points everywhere. I got a pretty diversified portfolio. Literally just trying to set myself up to try to go forever, every year as much as I can.
Try to do something like you said every year. So I want to actually go back to something that you said in that first trip, and because it's fascinating to me, because I've talked to other people, I've experienced it. So you talked about when that first elk and you saw, and you were so focused, you were calling, like you were almost calm, right? And this is that first time. Would you agree? Because you kind of said that, like you were so in the moment.
Yeah.
So, and I've talked about that before on my first Western trip, when I was at full draw on a spike mule deer, right? We went to like a 1-point unit in Utah. Basically, we drove around everywhere in this spot that we're glassing, because we had this backpack. We're camping in our mind. This is how it was going to go, and it wasn't. Like we just kind of the seam of our pants. We were like, "Holy shit! This is more of drive by, see what you see, and kind of go make a play." And because every time you'd maybe get to somewhere, it just led to nothing. You know what I mean? It was just a weird hunt.
Yes.
But long story short, I did this stalk. It was, out of the three of us, it was the first one. I was like, I'll shoot that. Like I'm, it'd be fun. So I do this stalk, and I get to full draw on this mule deer. And I just remember seeing my bubble just being so level. And I thought I'd be shaking like a son of a gun, like I have been with whitetail. And I was so focused that I just remember being like, he's so close. He's not 70 yards, what I would think. And Weston, at this point, when I was looking at him, he looked like he was 30. And that's why I was like, there's no way he's that far. And I let down and I ranged him again, and he's still looking back. He was closer to me, and he did that typical mule deer. I'm taking off, I'm bounding a little bit, stopping, looking back at you. And so when I had said, just didn't see anything or only heard something or whatever. So right. You know what I mean? So taking little victories.
Absolutely.
But then fast forward to the fall, and it's like a whitetail would drive me crazy, and you black out. You know what I mean? So I just want to know, like, what the hell, how does that happen? How does something, you make that trip all the way out west, you're so calm, you're so cool, collected, and then when I'm back home with a whitetail, luckily this year I was good. I was 5 for 5 in 3 weeks in PA, and I really practiced that, and I've really honed in on that aspect of things. And my buddy Jake just said, you got that killer mentality, and that's where I finally feel like I'm getting there as far as where that process is in that heat of the moment. But it's just fascinating. Like, could you think of more opportunities like that where you're just questioning yourself? How does sometimes I'm so calm, cool, and collected, and other times I'm just a basket case?
Well, I think there is definitely a difference about being up in a tree, being stagnant, and letting the deer work to you. And then it versus you stalking in on a mule deer or an elk, or even glassing with distance. I think that is one thing. But the other thing for me, just being laser focused and having that feeling of like, this is what I'm here to do. Like, I know that sounds corny, but
it's the truth.
It's the truth. Yeah. And just being locked in, and not to say, I don't get excited or whatever, but that same feeling came back when I had that mule deer this fall, and we can talk about that hunt too. But he was at 60 yards, and I had that crosshairs on him, and I was like, internally you are like, wow, like this is it. But it's just about being laser focused, and I think being present, and also working on, truthfully, like I will spend time visualizing like a deer in the crosshairs, and I will spend time visualizing whether shooting my bow at a target or even not. Like I'll just think about even a whitetail I'm I'm doing it already. I have an Idaho mule deer tag. I'm going to hunt high country mule deer on a solo trip this fall. I will spend time playing that in my mind. And the wildest thing, Jeremy, is how I killed the mule deer in Colorado. It's almost wild how similar that was to like what I played in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, prior to that hunt, this scenario, for whatever reason, it was downhill, and I shot him a little bit uphill. But it's crazy how like I'm not saying it's all hippie stuff or whatever, but if you really practice that, like I know like athletes do that.
100%.
Like if you really practice that, it's almost like you're there already. I think that's key, and that's something I never did like growing up or whatever. Like
right.
But I think there's truth to it. So like I tried to consciously do that over a few years, and I feel like that is part of it.
Dude, I agree with you about the visualization thing. I actually mentioned this today in my class because we were talking about wrapping up our stress management techniques and things. But the one aspect I learned in high school from my high school baseball coach was visualization, because we had a big game coming up, and they were in our conference. So I just remember him saying, when you guys go home tonight after practice, go home, sit down, relax, take a couple maybe air swings, but I want you to close your eyes and I want you to put yourself in this field. I want you to put yourself in a critical situation with an at bat, with making a play in the field, doing those types of things. And I just remember, and I looked up to him like he was my main role model. So I mean, he could have told me I needed to eat shit that night, and I would. Do you know what I mean? Like he was the person I looked up to the most, and he knows this to this day. And I took those things about almost everything in my life to practice that visualization, Weston. So like you were saying, the times when I knew I would mess up on, say, a hunt or things like that, I almost didn't prepare mentally for those situations. And even I feel like those moments too, when I would visualize it, and even if I came up short, I was a little bit more within the moment, right? I felt I was calm and cool and collected. Whether the animal moved away or just something happened. So I agree with you in that. And I think that is a really good tool to, whether it's you're on the shooting line for a 3D tournament, or you're doing, I don't know, like heck, you're probably going up and running somewhere tomorrow. You know what I mean? So visualizing that run to make you be prepared for yourself. And my buddy Jim, he was talking about doing a workout later today after work, but he talked to some friends early in the morning because he's doing like a CrossFit type workout gym. And he's like, man, it's going to be brutal. So I'm mentally preparing myself to know I'm going to go in there and get my tail licked a little bit. So I think that's key. I really do. And there is something to that. And like you said, it's not hippie stuff. It's not like you're thinking it into it happening. I know some people do think that, but it's just, I think you already saw it in your mind. So if it does happen, you're prepared for it.
If it makes you just get that half second of just like, you've kind of been here before, and to punch that trigger, like it's, it's almost worth it. And then if it doesn't work, like, you know what I mean? Like what's the worst? Like if you do it and it works, good. If you do it and it doesn't work, well, you're in the same boat. And
right.
I don't know. I do look into reading about mindset and things like that. It really helps with my marathons and ultra marathons, and it really helps for like these 10-day backpack hunts like out west too. Like I think a lot more things are like mental than you think.
I wish I have a really good friend of mine that I grew up with, and we always laugh because when we get together with my wife and his wife, and the four of us are together, she always busts on him saying that he has no internal voice. Like he just is so like and we're like, you really don't talk to yourself. Like you really don't have that internal voice. He's like, no, I don't. And I'm constantly talking to myself, coming up with ideas or whatever. And they're the situations, like I was saying about me not liking running. Like, I mean, I'm a couple minutes in, I'm like, this sucks. You know what I mean? Or I'm that person. So I need those mindset books. I need those voices of encouragement, man. But so let's go talk about this with your Western hunting stuff. And just because obviously some people are already, like you said, where you're kind of going and doing those things. And someone might be listening to this trying to maybe do that something the following year, just getting ducks in a row, that type of stuff. So when it comes to planning those Western trips for you, man, a lot of factors are involved with it. And just because, again, I've only really done one Western trip, I've done a couple out of state whitetail trips, but from like selecting the right state, navigating regulations, the terrain that you talk about, the like share your process of things, considering especially like the point creeping, talk about, the reintroduction to the wolves, like the state of where we're at with all that nonsense. And then obviously right now, like overall costs, like it's not cheap. You could do things on a more, I guess you could say, budget, but you don't have to splurge $5,000 to go do an elk hunt, right? Like we all know, yeah, you can. And we also know, no, you don't, type of ordeal. So I guess like your process into factoring in these awesome Western adventures.
Yeah. Love this question. So, first thing I want to say too is, I think you got a lot of guys listening right now that are, they hunt whitetail from back east PA, Ohio. That's a good bit of your audience, and they're thinking about going out west. I talk to guys all the time, like, yeah, one day. And my biggest thing, like, what I want to do is help people, like, make that jump, because obviously these trips have done so much for me. Mm-hmm. And whether you want to keep doing it every year or not, I think just going out there one time could be an awesome experience, whether you kill or not. I guess before I answer that question, I want to like set the scope too. Like what I like to, like, there's many different ways you can go out west. You can go with a guide. You can go in with an outfit that'll just kind of drop you off in a drop tent. You can go out there and sleep in the truck, hunt from the trailhead. That's all good stuff. And people kill all those different ways. Stay in a hotel, whatever you want to do. Go to a unit with a lot of access roads. What I like to do is we pull in, we have our 60-pound, 70-pound packs and in backpack in. And like doing it, do it yourself and things like that, and everything that comes with that. And I'm not going to lie, like I love doing it. I just feel like a little bit of this Western hunting is romanticized on Instagram. People need to set realistic expectations. Like, I think Cam Hanes and Joe Rogan are great role models for hunting. And Cam has got to where he is because he did it the DIY way for so long. But that's not what you're going to get when you go out there your first time, especially if it's do-it-yourself, over-the-counter, elk hunt, Colorado. So these are the hunts that I like to do, and I think people need to have that expectation. So, yeah, what I tell every guy, though, is, do you want to go? Do you want to go next year? Do you want to go in 3, 4, 5 years? I think if you're saying yes to any of that, you have to start looking at buying points now. It's getting unbelievably more and more difficult to get a tag. Pretty much, if you want to hunt mule deer like next year without any points, gosh, I mean, I think Arizona has some over-the-counter mule deer tags. In general, though, Colorado, you got to draw as a non-resident. Montana, Wyoming, Utah, yeah, there's still some 1 points like out in the Wasatch, I believe, like I kind of looked into, but I know that gets hammered with pressure. Like mule deer would be tough without any points, so got to get in that game. And elk over the counter, really, it's just Colorado. If you just want to buy a tag, and over the counter meaning you can literally go to Walmart on your way there before the season and buy a tag, truly over the counter. Idaho was always kind of like that, but now the last couple of years, the demand has been up so much and non-resident tags have been cutting back. I don't know how I got my mule deer tag. Like, I kind of lucked out. Everybody has to sign in December of the previous year on a specific time, and you get this queue, and it's just the biggest crap show. It's not even over the counter anymore. You're basically playing a no-point system lottery. Somehow I got my deer tag, but yeah, that's pretty much out. But you're going to have to draw Montana elk. Utah, I don't even play that game. Nevada, I don't even play that game. Arizona, I play that game, but I'm not going to be hunting there for at least 8, 9, or 10 years, and that probably won't even be a good tag. Good tag relative to Arizona. Wyoming now is a non-resident. The general tag, the base tag you can get, is going to take you. It might even be up to 5 points. It's going to be at least 4 points. And here's what people don't understand. Like, I'll say that 4 points meaning 4 years. You have to have 4 years of waiting in line. But here's the problem. If you want to start playing that game now, in 4 years, it's going to be 7 years to get that tag. Because you're chasing the creep.
Mm-hmm.
And Wyoming already cut back their moose, sheep, and goat from 85, 15 percentages from residents to non-resident tags to 90-10. And now they're talking about elk, deer, and antelope going to 90-10. I think it's around that 84-16 or something right now. And when they do that, you're looking at even bigger creep. Like, I've been trying to hunt Wyoming elk the last couple of years, and every year I just keep my dad's been my partner. I had a buddy from college come last year to Colorado, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, I don't think we can go. It's only getting harder, and it's great because we're getting more and more hunters. But yeah, if you want to go, you got to go. In Colorado, Colorado has the over-the-counter elk. They have the most elk of any state, so that's going to be there for archery and their second and third gun seasons for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look every year, they're cutting out 1 or 2 units. Now, those are only going to turn into basically, they're not over the counter, but if you go into the draw, you'll get it.
Right.
But that's just part of this creep. So it's getting so much harder to get a tag. And I will gladly help anybody walk through this with anyone if they want to reach out to me. I use Go Hunt. I use everything. Luckily, the first couple years in this game, I didn't use Go Hunter. I actually used how to control F the 1,000-page PDFs to learn all the draw stats and harvest rates and stuff. But yeah, I do just encourage guys, just take the time. I build points in a lot of states now, and when I have a new state I want to look at, I just say, okay, Saturday morning, I'm going to get up early before I have anything to do, pour a cup of coffee. And you know where all the answers are? You're not going to find on Google how to hunt elk in Utah. It's all in the digest. I get a cup of coffee and I read the digest. I mean, I'll gladly help anybody, but I'm telling you, if you want it, you got to read. Mm-hmm. You got to learn how to play the game. Every state's a little bit different. I won't go down this rabbit hole, but preference points and bonus points, and things are changing. It is only getting harder. So
right.
That's my 2 cents there.
So before we jump into costs and everything like that, to kind of piggyback off of that, I think I don't know if it was this year or the previous year, but I know Tim and Tom, who, again, kind of like you, diehard Western guys, love going out there. They had 8 points for a Colorado mule deer hunt for a specific unit that basically, even Go Hunt, obviously it's not 100% bulletproof and all that stuff. It's just it's a lottery. It's a draw. They both had very high percentage of pulling this tag, and they both did not get it. And again, that's 7 years. And so it is fascinating. And that's, man, it's so tough because I hope one day I do have the courage, I shouldn't say the courage, but the opportunity to go out west and do that. And like you said, I do need to probably take into some consideration that, heck, even if it is 4 years from now, it is going to end up being 7, and get points in now and start doing that type of ordeal. But to kind of go off of that, so if you look at it, are you mainly going to try on some of those trips, especially that are, I'm talking you're planning years from now, right? The ones where you may not pull for 5 more years. Are you going with the gun or are you going with the bow? Just because for me, I'll just be honest, don't get me wrong. I talk about it all the time. I say it almost on every podcast, how much I love archery, but man, if I know I'm only going out there this one time or whatever, I'm taking the friggin' rifle. Now I know it's not the equalizer. It is at some states, don't get me wrong, but other opportunities, man, if I know I'm good at 400 plus yards, I'm just throwing a number out there. And that's where, you were saying, that bull was 600 yards, and I'm sure you were trying to get into another 200 yards or whatever it be, whatever you're comfortable shooting, Weston. That's what I want, because I don't want it. Like we were saying earlier, those little victories on the mule deer on a spike bull, that was a one-time thing. But if I'm waiting 5 years, man, I might be wanting the gun with me.
You gotta ask me when that time comes.
Yeah.
Because I've yet to. So this fall will be the first year I'm taking a bow out west for mule deer in Idaho. I've only taken a rifle, and I'm not purely bow, purely rifle. Right. I enjoy the rifle hunts too, but the game you're playing though with a rifle hunt out there is you're battling the elements too. If you want to backpack, even if you're staying in the truck, man, like just being out hunting all day and hiking up in a foot of snow at 0 degrees, you're fighting that element too. So it's not like the hunt gets any easier because of the weather as well. And then that post rut, that second Colorado gun season, second gun season in Colorado is a tough time to kill an elk. That post rut, they're hiding, they're pressured. It's not. I know you almost. I guess you got to give the edge to the gun, just in the nature of your range. But it's really not that much.
Yeah, it's so tough. Like you said, I mean, in that heat of the moment, like maybe I'm going at the right time. Maybe I'm going to go when bulls are just full on just crazy idiots and rut, and I could have a better opportunity in on them and get in on them closer or whatever. And maybe it would be great with the bow. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I my preference would be the bow just because I love having that bow attached to me. But
I agree with that too.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just, it's so tough. Like every situation, when it would be the determining factor. I mean, put it this way: I think even 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said I'm taking my bow. Like I would have been like one of those guys. But now I'm just like, man, just hunt it. Whatever would be enjoyable. What maybe would up my odds for success for me personally. Yeah, obviously it doesn't mean anything, but it just that's what I would probably feel good about that, man. So that's good. Now the last part of that would be like the cost, because I remember when we did the Utah thing, I remember Tim laying it out for us like, hey, this is, if you have this is going to cover the tag. Here's how we could do gas. Then it all comes down to what do you already have as far as equipment goes to what do you need, right? And like I said, we were prepared for all things considering. We were prepared for having a truck camp down at the bottom, driving to a location, going up hiking, coming back down. And we were also prepared for, hey, back, like you said, 65 pounds, 70 pounds is on our back and we're going into backwoods. So we were prepared for all of that. Luckily for me, we kind of did the whole, I already had some things like you said about backpacking, camping with family, doing your thing on your own. So I had some things like that, and there were other things I needed to get. So if you look at individuals that, man, I know put it this way, you could pick your tag that you have right now. You're going to Idaho, mule deer hunt. You already have everything. Like, what do you budget for yourself as far as cost goes? That you're comfortable sharing, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, cause that is a big point that I know, like you said, when you ask people like, oh man, maybe in 3-4 years, because finally, dude, like when I finally sat down and said, no, I'm going next year if we're pulling this, like I made it work and I didn't have to really make a crazy lot of sacrifices, if that makes sense. Like it was fine. You just have to kind of take that leap. So when you look at financial costs of these trips, again, like we were saying, you could go for $1,500 or you could go for 5,000, depending on what you're doing. But let's focus on the kind of hunt that you're doing and kind of where that plays a role into your decision as well.
Yeah, it's just so tough because everybody's starting from a different place. And there is some key items that I would not skimp on. So I don't know if I can put a final bottom line dollar amount, but I'll try to break it down as much as I can. So non-resident elk tag in Colorado, you're looking at plus $700, $750. I think mule deer tags are $400. When you go into the application, which I just did here in April, because ideally, I'm going to go twice. I'm going to go to Idaho, mule deer, and then my dad and I put in again. We had now built some points back up to hunt. We want to hunt first season elk in Colorado. If we don't draw, we're going to hunt over the counter in the second season.
Okay.
But so that's my plan for this fall. But anyway, north of $700 for an elk tag. Time of application, that application time in Colorado, you're going to spend, it's like $150 for, you have to own a hunting license in the state to get into the draw. So what you do is you buy the cheapest small game license as a non-resident. It's $100-some plus a couple miscellaneous application fees. So right there, you're tickling $1,000. And then however you want to split gas up. I've never flown for a Western hunt. I can't even wrap my head around that. Like, I'm just driving. I drove solo last year. We did our elk hunt. And then in August, I actually spent a week solo and just spent a week in a tent by myself scouting the unit. I wanted to do a cool backpacking trip or something. I was like, why don't I just go scout where I'm going to hunt in October? At the very least, it'll give me
Lay of the
It's
land.
going to help the hunt. It's going to be a cool backpacking trip. And then I have a mission every day to scout for mule deer. So that was awesome. It was a week in a tent solo, which is not giving me the confidence to go to Idaho and actually hunt solo. But regardless, so yeah, gas. Typically, everybody's going to pitch in whatever it is, a couple $100. If you have 2 guys, 3 guys, maybe you give the driver kick in a little extra because you're probably a whole oil change, once you're there and back. And that's just base level getting out there, man. And I just feel like if you really want to give yourself a fair chance, there's some specific items of gear that you need. Even if you are camping at the truck, but if you do want to backpack in, regardless, you're going to need a good pack and frame. Because even if you're at the truck, you got to get that animal off the mountain. Or even if you're in the hotel, you got to get that animal off the mountain. And I think a great way to learn that is, anymore, I quarter up on my whitetail. I do the gutless method, and honestly, I prefer that anymore. But you're going to want to invest in a good pack. I'm wearing a Kafari shirt. Exo makes great packs too, and you're looking at another $400 or $500 there, and that thing is going to be your life, man. Especially if you're on a backpack hunt. On day 2, if you have a crappy pack from Dick's Sporting Goods that the frame busts, dude, you're done. Like, I can't. That's the frame that I like to paint for a picture for people. If you have a piece of gear that breaks, and you're miles from the truck, and it's late at night, and it's 10 degrees, like when you wake up in the morning, or whatever, you can't, like, if you're super cold, you can't just run inside.
Right.
Like, you can't just run in your house. If your pack breaks, you can't just run in the basement and grab your tools and fix. Like, it's a very away from the nest, naked feeling when you're out there. So a pack you do not want to skimp on. A good sleeping bag you do not want to skimp on. And then really, I'm big on. This could be a whole podcast, but the last thing I never want to skimp on is a good puffy jacket. Whether you're early season or late season, there's different styles. There's synthetic, there's down, there's light, there's heavier. But that puffy jacket is always going to be your last line of defense. If you can't sleep at night because you bought a 20-degree bag, but there's a snowstorm and it gets down to the single digits, you at least got that puffy jacket.
Right.
That should be extremely warm to keep you warm. Because if you can't sleep, dude, you're done. Like, you can't just run inside. And you're an idiot if you think you're going to make a fire in the middle of the night in the wilderness. Like, I think people watch too much TV, and, like, I'm telling you, like, it would sound badass, like, oh, we were frozen. Like, it was late at night, but we made a fire. Like, I'm telling you, there's no way, especially when you're 3-4 days in getting your butt kicked.
Yep.
So you're looking, so for a Sitka Puffy, you're looking at maybe $300 there. And you don't have to go crazy with everything. You can DIY a lot of your own food. You can, I don't think base layers you need to ball out on, really, especially if for an early season hunt. I wouldn't skimp on a pair of boots. You're looking at $200 there. And this is all, again, just for that DIY hunt. And I'm not trying to scare guys, though, because what I did was just over time. I knew I was going for a full year. And actually, at the time, there's like a cool little app. It's called TaskRabbit, where you go and do like handyman jobs. Dude, I did that for like 7 months up until the hunt. Not every day after work, blah, blah, blah. But like most weekends. And you'd be surprised. Like, I made a lot of money just doing landscaping for people or building furniture or fixing random stuff. And all that money like went to my first good pair of boots, pack, things like that. So it's a little bit about trying to get creative when, there's just things that you're going to need. And but the main thing with that, though, you can get all the good stuff, all the good packs, all the good clothes. You can paint your face and look like Rambo. If you're not testing your gear, especially in like the winter, if you're going on a late season hunt, if you're not putting miles on those boots, if you're not married to that pack when you get home from work, like several days out of the week with weight in it, you're not doing it, man. You're going to do yourself a disservice because I've seen it. A strap breaks.
Right.
And it drives you nuts the rest of the week. And then you're chafing and then your pack's jacked up and you can't you can't get your stuff back in your pack. You got to put reps in with everything. And
Right.
I enjoy it. I enjoy go backpacking and using all that gear and things like that. But that's the biggest message, man. You gotta just, and say if it's say if it's in the summer and your buddy's like, let's go elk hunt, let's do it. Archery, September, and it's July. And you gotta get all your gear and everything. Dude, I don't even know if I'd go.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd tell you to go. You gotta, if you want to backpack hunt and do it yourself, that whole experience.
Yeah. I agree 1,000%.
There's a lot to it. So, but you're looking at a couple grand in tags, gear, gas, just for that DIY hunt. Set those expectations. Dude, if you get all that and you make it for 7 days, you're going to have screw-ups. You're going to have things to, whatever, funny, goofy story. But if you make it for 7 days, and you actually are fortunate enough to see elk a distance on an over-the-counter, dude, that's a huge win.
Right.
That's a huge win. So it's all about picking up those wins, and then you start working towards, okay, I know what gear didn't work, what works, and you get ready for the next year. But yeah, that's probably a good way to frame it.
No, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think about when I went on that Western trip again, I did a lot of what you're saying. I hiked a ton. I mean, just even walking my dog, I had my backpack on, right? I just, I did those little things. I set up my tent. I did, all that almost, so that way I knew routinely I could try to get these things set up with my eyes closed and really prepare for those moments and those opportunities. And I will agree with everything you said as far as those are the things that you try not to skimp. So heck, the way also to maybe get around it is if you are not going with somebody, but someone that has the gear, I'm talking a good friend, for example, it was Tim, myself, and Dimitri when we went on that hunt. Our buddy Tom, he's the one that had 10 by 52 or 12 by 50s, whatever. And no one had that big power of a glass. I had 10 by 42s. Dimitri did too, or something like that. So Tim was like, hey, I'm going to, Tom, could I borrow them for a little bit? And Tom's like, yeah, sure. Take them on that trip. I don't need them at this point in time. So, I mean, obviously there's certain things like that. It'd be tough for a backpack, all that type of stuff, just because you're going to beat it up if you are sleeping and all that type of stuff and have it with you. But man, there are ways that you could maybe pull things down. And dude, there's people selling stuff all the time. So just to kind of piggyback of what Weston said, there are ways. If you're if you're an individual, it's no, I need to have new. Okay, then you are going to pay top dollar. But if
you're a man of means, I mean, I like gear too. Ball out. If you have the means.
Yep.
But just make sure you're using the stuff.
Yeah.
Before you go.
Yeah. I'm big on that too when it comes to saddle hunting, man. Obviously everybody knows that for me, for whitetail, I preach that even for myself, that I feel like I could still a random day during the year. If you're like, hey, Jeremy, could you show me how to do this? I'd feel 100% confident, but that is also a huge thing for me in the summers to get those reps or whenever I have the opportunity to, just because I don't want that. Oh man, it's been a couple months. It's been last hunting season since I did this. Do you know what I mean? I don't want that to happen. So the same thing goes for what you're using your equipment for, because you said, Weston, you want to make sure it works and it works to the best ability and you know how to work it. Now to kind of switch gears, but still keep it in the Western thing. What came first? You say the chicken and the egg. What came first, the whole fitness drive thing or the Western hunts?
So I would say I was always tried to stay in shape. I played all the sports, lifted weights in college and everything. And I just want to say too, I am not a runner, a born runner. I have, and for people listening,
There's hope for us individuals.
Listen, yeah. So I started running marathons 2 years ago. Since then, I've run several. I just missed qualifying for Boston last year. I got the Pittsburgh Marathon coming up in a couple of weeks, so trying to get that. I just ran a 55K in North Carolina, ultra race in the mountains down there. I've run a 36-mile ultra, and I'm running a 70-miler ultra marathon. It's the Laurel Highland Hiking Trail.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with that,
yep.
Runs up towards Johnstown. So that's in June. I just want to say 4 years ago, maybe 5, because it was before the going out west, I ran this half mile to my gym and I thought I was going to die. I heard once a week people that wanted start running races or just that races wasn't even, dude. I was the furthest thing. If anybody has seen me, like I'm not a tall guy. I don't have these big long running legs. When me and Chris Weiss are out in the woods, like hanging out, it's actually funny looking at me and him
I
together.
keep laughing because how tall are you?
I'm like, yeah, I'll give myself 5'6".
Okay, so you and I are about the same. Like I'm five
Yeah,
six and a half, but just shy of 5'7". And I keep laughing because Chris and I we're dying to meet up and shoot and go scout and do shit together. And I keep laughing because I go, oh my gosh, that day when we finally meet, he's gonna be like,
yeah.
what's the movie with Schwarzenegger and DeVito?
Oh, twins or what?
Twins. I'm like, this is what
Yeah,
it's gonna be like. It's literally
yeah.
gonna be like twins. I'm gonna be this
He's
little short guy, and obviously he's 6'5", 280 pounds of just slap little muscle together and stuff.
Yeah, we're good 1-2 punch though. I mean, he'll deadlift them, and I'll just
Run them.
run.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but anyway, and then so I would go to this trail. It was a 3-mile loop, and I remember sitting in my truck being like, "Dude, I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it." And this was in 2020. I'm telling you. And then somehow, I guess I am a little naturally ambitious. I signed up for a half marathon. I remember having a legit panic attack at work. My buddy was sitting next to me. He's like, "Dude, just walk it. Like, you're not going to die." Then COVID happened. Canceled all the races for like 2020, 2021. And I just really found a passion for running. I really think it's given me a lot of mental clarity. When I'm out there on my run, I really start. I mean, earlier we were talking about like that voice in your head. Dude,
Yep.
like, yeah, it's crazy. But no, I love it. And just for years, man, I just kept it up. Running, even on days, I still have days where I don't want to go run. But I know every time I'm done, I'm happy I did it.
Mhm.
And I love it. And these races, and that's the thing, man, it just grows and it grows. And fortunately, like I said, now, last just 2 years, I've run races. I just started immediately with marathons. And now I'm looking to try to go to Boston. I ran a 36-mile ultra last year that I came in first place. I placed in the top 10 in my 55K last month, and there was a good bit of runners, and the guys that beat me were like guys that run the big 100-milers like out in Colorado and shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just been something that I've grown into, and I've just been focused. Like I'm not
Do you
trying
run
to get
do you
too
run every
crazy with
day?
it. What's that?
Do you run every day?
So right now I am, yeah.
Okay.
I'm starting to taper off for my marathon race.
Mhm.
Just you got to just kind of let your body. You got to be 100% for race day.
Mhm.
But it got to the point where my weekly mileage, what was required, I was like, math ain't math, and I got to go 7 days a week. And it's been crazy. It's been a really cool journey. I feel like it's taught me a lot about life. Just sticking with it. And dude, I've had times where like my knees like were jacked up and just did some research and found out I don't have the right shoes. I need different support. Am I taking all the right supplements? Am I down in my nutrition? And then slowly, like, I've just become so passionate for it. I found that, like, I can't afford to keep drinking like I used to and things like that. If I want to pursue this other thing. And, yeah, it's been a journey. So it's kind of went hand in hand. I started running just to get in shape for out west. But since then, I just kept at it and I've loved it. And now I'm like, it's cool. I'm getting connected through social media with like other trail runners. I think trails are like, these trail races are my thing because I can get to like cool places. When I was in North Carolina, running the Appalachians down there, being in the mountains, it's like that visualization thing, man. Like I'm there, like I can see it. And like when I need motivation, I'm in Colorado, like I'm on that elk. And it's just good fuel. And I think for me, I just love a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's what's drawn me to it. I love the mountains. I love the pursuit, and I love the challenge. So I think that Western hunting has been a good way to scratch that. And when I'm not doing that, running trail races and marathons are just another good challenge. Yeah, I think that's what I'm really drawn to.
Dude, I like that. So and I know you get after it too in the weight room, and doing the running thing. What's your recovery kind of routine are you doing to try to make sure you're, obviously you're not going to be 100% for day after day, but how do you kind of know that like, okay, I know I could go tomorrow or, man, you know what I mean? That type of aspects.
Yeah, man. And I might get some crap for this, but like, I really do. I've been on a good kick now where I've been working out every day pretty hard. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying people need to do that. I could never do that. I kind of work to this. I will back off my running, like I said, for my race,
Right.
but just trying to get myself in the best shape for these hunts. It just keeps me even mentally focused too.
Mm-hmm.
And I do. So I think, I think there's value in, I think people get a little, rest is important. Recovery is important, but I think there is value in like going for that run when you don't feel that great.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of how I've been able to progress, like, and been able to hold up. And yeah, maybe when I'm older, I might look back and be a little banged up, but I don't know. My body feels
Pretty
really
good.
good right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do prioritize stretching and mobility. Like I stretch every day.
Okay.
I do want to do a little bit, incorporate a little bit more mobility. Um, like I said, I'm running every day, but I plan to back that off. I just kind of had to do that for this portion of it. And then I really think there's something to just having really dialed nutrition because it's been the last like year or two where I've really been focused on my body and these races, and I never thought I could even get to this point. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, I've just slowly picked up more and more little habits, like more and more little nuggets. And yeah, I do need to sleep more. I'll say that I'm not good with it, but I don't know, man. It sounds corny, but I think there's a lot to just trying to push it a
Right.
little bit more. And I think it helps you mentally, even for being out west
What
too.
do you think? What do you think about the whole like? Do you do any type of like cold plunging, any sauna work, anything along those lines?
Man, so I think there's a lot of hype. I would like to get in a sauna. I know that is
I like the
good. I
sauna.
just
I
don't have
like.
access to one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that that's good. So I don't know if I'll get crap. I do the cold showers. Not. I think it's like it's BS when people say they help with fat loss and like all that. I bulked this winter doing cold showers. Like that's all calories in, calories out.
Yeah.
I think for my ultra races, it helps
Mm-hmm.
being uncomfortable for that. I'll do 5 minutes right now. And I don't think people realize how long, when you're not scrolling your phone and you're extremely uncomfortable, how long 5 minutes can be. So it's just little ways to build up that mental, man. And I know,
Mm-hmm.
like, is that really going to help you, like, do whatever? But I don't know, man. It's giving me a little bit of an ability to, like, kind of check out when I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
And I'm not saying people have to do all that. I'm not saying people have to run every day, like, or whatever. Just kind of little things that I've slowly kind of, like, picked up and gone to. But I'm kind of doing that right now for these races. Like, I'll back away from that a little bit. And
Right.
I will say, come August-ish, end of July, I'll still run. I love it. I'm still going to lift. But no, man, I've shut all these races down.
Yeah.
I'm focused on hunting.
Now, when that time comes too, are you doing more so like what you're training? Like, hey, backpacks on. I'm going on hikes and like just because I mean that's the one aspect that I'm so glad that I did. That I mean, so let's rewind. That was 2020. I did that year prior to that. Even I did a Mountain Tough program, and that's when Mountain Tough at the time you had to buy a program for like $200. Actually, it was just one program. It wasn't even how they have it now, where it's an app and you get like 50 different things if you buy one thing. Like back then, it was just that. And I remember that I at that point in time, that was 5 years ago. So when I was 30, I had a kid, and from 28 to 20, maybe when I was 31 ish, that was, I got sloppy a little bit. And then I got back into really good shape again. And I was on that program. I was man, I'm getting ready for this hunt. I have to be dialed in. Like it gave me some motivation. It really put me somewhere. And those hikes with the backpack and my boots, those were critical because when I got to Utah, I was still, again, like I said, I was in one of the better shapes of time period of my life. And that altitude really in the mornings, for some reason, Weston, I don't know, maybe you could speak of this, but in the mornings, I struggled. And in the afternoons and the evenings, it was a piece of cake. But those morning hike-ins to certain locations, I remember my two buddies who I was with, like I said earlier, they were, and I'm like, my gosh, for some reason I'm struggling. And then midday, I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. Afternoon and evening, I'm good to go. I was hiking, I could do whatever. I was keeping up, but those mornings I sucked. I don't know what it was. It really sucked the wind out of me. But the critical part of that is, like we were saying earlier, the training aspect. I was still doing strength training stuff, but I was also doing a little bit more of backpack, doing things that I was actually going to be doing on my hunt.
Yeah, and I think that's key. I truly believe if you want to get good at a thing,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do that thing. And if you're going to backpack hunt out west, I can guarantee you only one thing. I can't guarantee you're going to kill, you're going to shoot your weapon, you're going to like fire, blah, blah. What you are going to do is hike with a heavy backpack.
Mm-hmm.
So you better be doing that. So I'll definitely be mixing that in. I was doing that a little bit more this winter and this spring, but when it got to the point where I know I needed to run more, I just kept with running. But yeah, definitely this summer, after races too, I'll be doing more training with the pack. Yep. And the running too, like that is probably the best. Yeah, backpack training all year probably would be even a little bit better than running every day. But I think a lot of what we do is a mental thing. It's a confidence thing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, running and lifting gives me confidence, and like I said, it builds my mental. It's like there is something to, like, if I can run 35 miles straight, I believe in myself enough to climb up that mountain. Like,
oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, no doubt.
So these things are just giving me. I think confidence is huge. If you have confidence in yourself to climb the mountain, to get to the animal, that's a lot of the game. So. And then obviously it's going to help your just be in good shape. But yeah, I will 100% get the pack on in the evenings in the summer, closer to the hunts for sure. And for you, for those mornings, dude, it might have been like a dehydration thing, just waking up.
Yep.
I always bring electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
You get for out there too, and you gotta be drinking a lot of water.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I always just felt so sluggish, and then some switch would flip, and then all of a sudden I was okay. Those morning walks, I just remember being like, oh my God, like what the heck? It knocked me on my butt. It really did. And then, like I said, later in the day I was good. But when you look at all this stuff, Weston, you threw on your story the other day, and this is really one of the things that I really liked what you put out there, and you said about it was like a little mental nugget, right? Like you want to do all these new things, but it's also on top of the things that you still have going on in your life. And I like that a lot. And man, I don't know how old you are, but again, at 36, I wish, again, I'm still learning. I'm still growing from other individuals that are younger than me, that are older than me, that have done it. That's my age. I just like learning and getting better. And I kind of just seeing how you are, I know that's kind of like you're saying, you like reading the mindset book, like you want to be better, man. I give you kudos to that, because I find value in that. And that's, I see realism in that. So I like that. So when you look at that, where is your mindset on that, like for bettering yourself, and how that approach was like, what made you make that post, basically, is where I'm getting with that.
Yeah, so, and it's something I've had to keep reminding myself. And sometimes when I make a post, like, it's just me, and it's just like thoughts of myself. But I just feel like people can either relate to this exact scenario or take this and relate it to other things. When I'm reading these books, I'm working on like just mindset stuff. Like I like to share it. And then when I'm running too, like I just get these thoughts, and I decided to share them. And yeah, I'm actually glad you brought that up. Like I get some messages on these too. So. But that one, so yeah, it was, I went out and did one of my last big training runs was this past weekend, 20 miles, like pretty hard, for this marathon. And it's funny, like, you come home and you just think, like, when you go, you take on another hard thing in life. You want to pursue a passion. You want to work on this other thing. You want to start creating content like podcasts like yourself, or run marathons or anything. It's not like these other things are going to go away. So I get back home, and you almost feel it's an entitlement. Like you almost feel like I just want to shower and lay down. Like, I'll put in the work today. That's not really how it works. So I get home and like I just bought this house. I fixed it up, and it's not done and yet. But like these pipes burst, and I had to do this plumbing work just to take a shower, and then I still had to or that was the week before. And then this past weekend, I went and did a run, and my mom wanted me to go down and visit all the family at early in the morning, and it just you got to get away from that mindset of like, well, I'm doing this other thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, well, that's not what you're signing up for. You're signing up for the other thing, business, the marathons, the getting in better shape, hunting more, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also doing being a good son, a dad, a husband, etc.
Right.
They stack on top of each other. So that's, if you're ever, and that's something like I just keep reminding myself, because I struggle with these things, and that's why I like to read and try to work on like personal growth stuff, because it just gives me that good frame to work. So you're not owed anything.
Right.
If you want these other things, you got to make it work. You got to be that runner and the son.
Yep.
You got to be the content creator and the dad,
mm-hmm.
which I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that frame of mind. Because early on I'd go run 10 miles and I'd be like, I'm not doing that. Like, come on, like, you didn't do what I did.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear that. Right. That's not what you're signing up for.
Right. No, man. I mean, so we're recording this on Tuesday the 23rd, and yesterday on the 22nd, we had my wife and we got home mid 4 after school. We got home and she takes the baby, and my daughter, I was like, hey, I had this great idea for making this meal for us. I just wanted a nice meal because I was gone on the weekend. I was in Ohio with a buddy hunting some turkey, and I wanted to just make a nice dinner for us. So we stopped at the store quick, got home. She took the baby. My father-in-law left. I'm making the dinner. I'm getting everything all ready. I made dinner. I clean up because my wife still again has the baby, and she's doing the whole nursing thing, all that jazz. So I'm useless in that department. So Nora's doing something like, hey, go grab your guitar because we have guitar lessons at 6:00. I quick clean up. At that point in time, I cleaned up, I cooked, I cleaned, I did the dishes, I did what my father-in-law, because he watches the baby, I did all the bottle dishes that were in that little tiny sink thing that my wife has for all that stuff. I made the bottles for the next day for them for that, and then it's just helping out. So I take my oldest daughter 2 guitar lessons, I come home, finish doing something else, and then I help with bedtime. I put my oldest to bed, get my wife all situated for her bed. I come downstairs, it's 9 something. I finally do a little bit of work that I need to do on the computer. And I was like, shoot, I didn't shoot my bow yet. So I'm ripping my shots that I promised myself every day. I made a goal of shooting the next amount of shots at minimum. And
that's it. That's it right there.
Yeah. So, and that's, you know what I mean? And like you said, like, and on top of that, I walked a crap ton, did a lot of miles on Saturday and Sunday. Like Sunday, dude, I got home in the house. I brought all my only couple bags in, and my daughter was like, let's clean mom's car. I'm like, okay, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, I just drove 3.5 hours, hunted my tail off, all this type of stuff. And I'm like, dude, let's do it. Like, I want to spend time with you. Let's clean mom's car out. It's a win-win situation. I had a field trip with that personal training class. Like I said, that on Monday we hiked 1,000 steps, which is here in PA in Juniata area. We hiked 1,000 steps. We did a bunch of things, a workout at Juniata College, and then came home, like I said, and did what we did that. Yeah, like I said, and it just, you got to do it.
That's it, man. I mean, the thing too is like, I'm not saying that like, family doesn't care or whatever, but you gotta like tell yourself like nobody's gonna care like you care.
Right.
So like when you come home and they, want to go do this other thing, but you already did X, Y, Z, they're not gonna care like you care. Like you gotta do both. You're doing both.
And I will admit, Weston, I mean,
and I mean that like optimistically.
Yeah.
Not like oh, they don't care about you. Like that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Like you're doing both. You gotta take pride in it. Dude, and then when you go to bed that night, like you're just like, I did it. I was like, kick butt dad, I did my other things. Like, you got to take pride in it.
Right.
And yeah.
I'll even admit too, like, I mean, a couple of years ago, I would have been probably saying a different tune. I would have been like, no, I need to do this. I need to do that. And dude, there are times when it is okay. You know what I mean? I think that is important to have those things. But man, like even like how we're saying about doing this, like, don't get me wrong. This means a whole lot to me what I'm doing with Antler Up, just because it's something where I'm able to speak to individuals like you, and that's what means the most about it. Like I was saying earlier about getting rid of social media. I wish I could one day, all that type of stuff and all that. But I also realize now, man, if I don't post or something, no one cares. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a few people obviously that are keeping up and want to or that like to see what's happening, and I greatly appreciate that. That's why I still do it. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? But if I don't get a chance to come down here and do it, it's okay. Did I make sure my daughter was okay? Did I make sure my wife was okay? Did I make sure that I'm taking care of my health physically? Okay. Did I work out? Am I good up here? Am I shooting my bow? Like I said, then it's the other fun stuff, right? But again, dude, maybe a couple of years ago, I probably would have had a different answer for you, and not a better answer. You know what I mean? And it took time and made me feel like maybe a crappy individual or a crappy husband and all that type of stuff and father, that made me look in the mirror and go back to what my who I look up to too is my brother-in-law, my sister's husband. Where when I was in high school, I remember him saying to me, dude, after you brush your teeth and you look at that reflection in the mirror and you are not happy with that, you got to do something. And if you say, okay, I'm happy with what that looks like and who I am, then keep doing what you're doing. Right. But if you're not, do something about it. And a couple of years ago, I had to do something about it, and I feel okay. And I continue to work to strive to be better, man. And that's, so seeing what you like, again, posting that, I give you credit, because there's times where I wish I could. I'm like second guessing myself. What are people going to think? You know what I mean? And, like, cause for a while there, man, like I would post like just a quote, like just something like keep going. And maybe it was just, and I find, if you found something about it, like if you read that, you're like, shit, yeah, I gotta keep going today, then thank you. You know what I mean? Like keep going, keep doing it. And, because it is tough to navigate that type of stuff sometimes. But no, man, I appreciate you saying that, because it motivated me. You know what I mean? It kind of, even though we're in two different, you're not married, you have no kids at situation right now. So we're in two opposite spectrums, but yet hopefully you could draw some motivation, inspiration for me. And as I draw that motivation, inspiration from you. So man, that's the beauty of this.
Yeah, isn't that a great game to play, where
Mm-hmm.
everybody's learning and getting inspired from everybody else, and
Yep.
like just taking little things here and pulling each other along? Like that's how I was the same way a couple years. Like and sometimes social media I'm like, this is trash, but I looked at it as, because I didn't post that much, like or whatever, and I thought it was all trash. But then I realized, like, dude, it's like a tool, and like it's like a hammer. You
Mm-hmm.
can build a house with it, or you could tear a house down with it.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh,
So
dude. Perfect.
yeah. So what I started doing, I had already been running, I'd already been doing some of these trips, and I'm so passionate about it. And I've always just had like this thing about telling stories, and I'm a long caption kind of guy. Like I don't know, people might read them, people might not, whatever. But I decided, like, I think I do want to start sharing kind of what I do. And maybe I do enjoy, like I said, reading about like some of these philosophical things we're talking about, and sharing those, and sharing what I've learned through running and these hard hunts and stuff. And like, dude, just you seeing that and like that making
Mm-hmm.
you think, like, to me, that's worth, like,
Mm-hmm.
just connecting with one person like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's worth all the Instagram stories I do, like, every day. I mean, people don't follow me, like, and I talked about my training. I mean, you can see it. I share it every day. Like I'm running, lifting every day. I'm sharing those maybe little. There was a while there. Sometimes on Sundays I do a long run, and my mind's just going, and I'll share like a little wisdom thing. And I'm a young guy. I'm not saying I have all the answers at all. Like but I do like sharing and connecting with people with that. Just trying to put positive out, man. Because if you want positive in, you got to put positive out.
Yeah.
And I believe it's a real thing.
Yeah, but what's funny is some of my former players know when I would be working out, whether it be like during the school year or in the summer, because I would send them like a picture of a song, and then I would send them like some little mini rant. You know what I mean? Like some text message of a mini rant of like some motivational thing that was going on in my head. And they're like, yo,
Yeah,
coach, you working out right now? I'm like, you know it. You know what I mean? Just because that's when
yeah,
the mind would be
yeah.
going crazy. And I would just, give some form of motivation to certain individuals and stuff like that. But no, man. So here's what we could do. I would love to catch up with you in the next couple months, especially in maybe after June, maybe in July. Weston, I would love to catch up with you again on a podcast and talk about like specifically kind of like what you're doing, how you're going to handle kind of the upcoming season as far as like your Western trip, talking about whitetail type stuff. I think we could that in itself is another whole other episode, man. And this for right now, for what we discuss, I think this is a really great informational thing that can get people motivated, looking forward to what's coming up. And man, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your wisdom, sharing the stories, sharing your personal opinions, your things that you value. Just because, again, I see value in that and appreciate it, man. And I'm looking forward to hopefully you coming on and we cracking out another one, because this one can keep going, man. And I appreciate you.
Oh, dude.
I,
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And if those of you that listen and you're like, man, I wish you guys would have covered this or ask this one next time, man, hit me up, hit Weston up, say cover this one next time. And heck, even if we, when this does come out, if we get bombarded with other things, then we could even do it sooner than later. So Weston, man, I really appreciate it, dude. I really, really do. Where can people follow along again and see what you're all about and share that information?
Yeah. So first, I want to say thanks for having me on, man. Really appreciate it. I'll look forward to that. Yeah, June, July.
Mhm.
That would be good. I'd be done with that. All my races, even that longer 70-mile race.
Yep.
Still wrapping
We
my
could
head
we could
around
talk
that.
about what that guy was saying on your shoulder.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's gonna be. Maybe I'll get some wisdom from that too. I'm
Yep.
sure, but I'll be totally more even dialed in for the Western hunting and the whitetail hunting. I plan to share some more stuff on my Instagram just to help people out, because that's really what I want to do. I want to help guys get out west, maybe get in a little bit better shape if that's what they're looking to do. I'm
Mhm.
studying to be a NASM certified personal trainer right now, because I just want to help like some guys,
Yep.
just with the things that I've learned and getting people moving. But yeah, pretty much just Instagram at Weston Homa. You can find me. I'm active on my story every day. I'm pretty consistent, just posting with if you like whitetail hunting, primarily Western hunting stuff. I'll be doing some backpacking trips. I really dove down the photography rabbit hole too, a little bit of that, but and then sharing a lot of my running and training, and then yeah, just what I'm doing, kind of all that every day on my story too. So just want to help some guys out and connect with guys. And truly, I'm trying to get around, guys that are even further down the path than me. Like
Yep.
Scout, we didn't even talk about like scouting with Chris and just connecting with more guys like him. And so that's where I'm at Weston Homa on Instagram. I'll be posting more about. I was thinking I was going to share more about like gear and stuff for out west, because
Mhm.
I think if you're looking to get a tag and stuff, you might have to just DM me. That's hard to like explain in a post, because that's going to be specific on where you're going, what your situation is. But for gear and stuff, I think I want to start sharing a little bit more of that too, what's been working for me, what I plan to
Nice, man.
take out there. So yeah.
I like it, dude. Well, everybody go follow Weston. Really appreciate that. Really enjoyed this conversation. I'm amped up for another one. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week in Antler Up.